Before we get into today's interview, I want to remind everybody to go out and support our partners in safety. They help make this podcast happen. Of course, I'm talking about Mighty Line Floor Tape, the original partners in safety on the Safety Pro podcast. Now, look, if you're struggling in your facilities with layout, floor marking, maybe you're having safety issues related to organization, concerns, Mighty Line's got you covered. You're going to be able to 5S your entire facility without painting a single part of your floor. They've got line tape, they've got directional signs, they've got icons that you can get to stick on your floor, instructions, you can get custom logos and design signs, labels, you name it, they've got you covered. They've got floor tape that is slip resistant. They've got floor tape that is built to withstand forklift traffic. Don't take my word for it. Go get a sample for yourself. Go to mightylinetape.com/podcast. Fill out the form. They'll send you a free sample. It also lets them know that we sent you. Again, mightylinetape.com/podcast. Also, big shout out to Aero Safety. I've gotten to know Drew over the years at Aero Safety. I've had Drew on the podcast a number of times where he's broken down some safety issues that all safety managers face, and we have great discussions. Hope to have him back on again soon. The reason why I talked to Drew is Aero Safety, as far as safety services providers go, they are the official safety service provider of the Safety Pro podcast. I'm going to tell everybody that asks, hey, do you have anybody that can do custom training for us? Do you have anyone that can help us with our safety program development, audits, inspections? Drew has you covered. I always send people to Aero Safety. Go to aerosafetyus.com. You're going to get something that's built, designed for you in your business, not some generic off-the-shelf service. All right. That's aerosafetyus.com. Get a custom quote today. All right. Welcome to the Safety Pro podcast. We have Ken Reed from TapRooT here. Ken, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. Now, it's funny, we were talking a while back. I saw a post on LinkedIn and you mentioned something that was interesting. I was just scrolling and it just said there's no such thing as a root cause. I had to stop and I'm like, what the heck is Ken talking about? And you got me good. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. But
Talk about what prompted you one to write that headline because it
right.
hooked me. But what was the substance of what you were trying to say in that post?
Yeah. It was kind of a different kind of post. I don't normally post that way, but I don't want to say I was frustrated, but it's one of those things that I started hearing again from various sectors where, and I don't want to necessarily say consultants, but people who just decide that it's time to talk about no root cause again. And that came through. I remember maybe about 10 years ago or so that that some people, I try not to disparage people, but I feel sometimes that they just want to make a name for themselves. So they kind of throw some stuff out there to catch people's attention. And it went through this cycle of no such thing as a root cause. And I think people got over that after a while when they realized that was kind of silly. And it's shown up again. And I just thought I would throw something out there again to discuss why people might think that, and then why that really doesn't make a lot of sense. So that was the purpose of the post. I guess the headline was to grab attention, and apparently it worked. It was.
It did.
Yeah. So
it blew up. It had a lot of. I had to comment on it, and it had a lot of comments. Now, so why are we talking to Ken today? Ken, share a little bit about your background and your work at TapRooT, how that all started, and that might help folks better understand, why were you latched onto this, and that we can kind of get into the nuts and bolts of that statement itself.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I've been working here at System Improvements. We're the developers of the TapRooT system. I've been here for just almost exactly 20 years now. I retired from the Navy. About that time, I'd been in for 21 years in the nuclear power side and decided to do something different. And I've been in charge here of instructor certification and course development ever since I've been here. So I've had a lot of experience with, especially the nuclear side in the military on root cause analysis, which whether we did it well or not, I don't know, but we definitely had to do something with it when you have a problem with the propulsion plant. So the concepts were there, and I've been working here ever since at System Improvements and teaching courses and setting up instructors and having a great time, actually.
Yeah, and it's fair to say the nuclear Navy probably one of the examples that I would go to discussing high reliability organizations.
Right.
There's a lot of operational discipline required operating with those types of just that industry, but those types of that type of equipment. When you see people talk like there's no such thing as a root cause, and like you said, it's usually because they're trying to sell something or package something or stick out. Why would somebody, what do you think their goal is as you dug into some of these statements, even in the past? Because you said it's kind of crept back up recently.
Yeah, I don't think they're being dishonest or anything like that. I want to make sure that's clear. I don't think that's the case. I honestly think that sometimes it's just semantics and terminology that they're trying to push a little bit, and they have, everybody's got their brand, and so they have a brand that sometimes they try to push with we have a root cause, and some contributing factors. We're not going to call those root causes. We'll call them something different. So when you're done actually analyzing what they're talking about, I'm not quite convinced they're that much different in their thinking from a broad perspective. But I think a lot of times it's just trying to grab some attention, which is what people do, and that's okay. But what I'm concerned with is that people take that at face value and run with it and say, no such thing as a root cause. Well, then I don't have to analyze things. I don't have to go look for things. I don't have to go fix things. And that's the concern that I get when I see those kind of statements out there.
And, it's human nature. We call them biases, but it's a bias, but they're these shortcuts. Those are cognitive shortcuts that we'll make. But there's also this, I don't know if we call it a bias, but it's certainly a driver for a lot of folks in business, especially in management operations, is, oh, wow, somebody's telling me I can do something quicker or faster. And, there's this whole push for, give me a tool. And I've seen TapRooT, and it's like this myth that I'm going to use a tool and it's just going to get me to the end quicker so I can get back to work.
People are hoping that there's some magic pixie dust out there, I can just toss out there and boom, I have an answer. And I wish that you could in 3 minutes come up with answers to complex problems. And it just doesn't really work that way, unfortunately.
No, it doesn't, unfortunately. And it's frustrating to see that. And I know I have a tool that is my favorite one to beat up on. And for good reason. It's because it's my opinion, the most widely misapplied, misused tool.
Right.
We're probably thinking of the same one. What tool could you pick out if you had to? What tool would you pick out that's the most widely misused in this case?
I honestly think 5 Whys is just it's one of those. It just sounds so quick and easy, right? And I have no doubt that back in Japan, when they put this all together, that 5 Whys, I would say it's better than nothing. So if you don't have anything, I guess you'll get something out of it. But the expectation that the normal person knows the right question to ask and get to the right answer is not really accurate. I honestly find it difficult to get good answers out of 5 why because you have to remove your own internal biases. You have to think outside of your own level of knowledge. So if I'm a training guy and I do a 5 why investigation, amazingly enough, I end up at training root causes and training corrective actions because
Right.
that's just where I go. I don't know where else to go, and that's my comfort zone, and that's where 5 why investigations often go.
And you'll ask about what you know
Sure,
naturally.
you're comfortable with doing that, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know to ask about control panel setup, or what color should a light be, or what tone should an alarm be, if you don't know to ask those questions, you'll never get to those kind of problems. So
And so you're setting up another point of discussion, which is, folks will try to do this alone. Even minor incidents, it helps to have somebody else. And so whether you call them learning teams or whatever you want to call them, the whole point is because you want a good diverse group of folks with different background and knowledge in those other areas you just mentioned.
Right.
Because we'll all see different things, and that's important. And I agree with the 5 why. It is a hammer in search of a nail. It's terrible. I've seen folks immediately grab a form, a paper hard copy, 5 why, as soon as an injury happens, and go out and go, okay, why did you do that, or why And I'm thinking, you haven't even established the context. Like building the who, what, when, where, what was being done. And I tell everybody, in order for me to understand how or why something happened, I have to know what happened. I have to know who was involved. I have to know where it was, what time it was it, what part of the building, what process were they working in.
Exactly.
I've got to build this context first, and we skip all that.
Your RCA process has to be evidence-based. And if you haven't collected any evidence, there's nothing to analyze. So, these kind of systems where you're just hoping that you're asking the right questions and without any good guidance. And, our system is really focused on human performance. So, the reasons that a human makes an error. And unfortunately, very few people are trained in this. You don't have people at most companies who are human performance experts, and yet the results of a root cause analysis are probably going to point to a human making a mistake somewhere. So if you don't understand why humans make errors, you're really stuck if you don't have any guidance built into your system. So
and I don't think it's conscious. I don't think it's I'll stick with that statement. I don't think it's conscious, but I do feel like we do as people, speaking of humans, we will take the path of least resistance.
I agree.
And it sounds counterintuitive, but I understand how one would think it's the path of least resistance to try to fix a person rather than a process.
Right.
Because I might get to a point where I go, man, if we just didn't have to do that, or we could do it a different way. But we have a bunch of those in our facility, and we have a bunch of facilities in our company, and that's never going to change. So I think I'm just going to try to control these people, and tell them don't do that, and I'll recoach them and retrain them. And so I get that the folks doing the investigation are people too, and they suffer the same limitations and biases and traps that workers face. So we're all in this together.
Yeah, I don't want people thinking that investigators are immune to these kind of biases. It's you, and they're not coming up with poor answers because you want to. You just don't know any better. It's just we're humans, just like the things we're investigating are based on humans. So I also find that it's pointing at the human isn't very helpful for a result, because it's very rare that I have a guy come into work in the morning and say, man, I think I'm going to go over there and stick my hand in a pinch point today. I mean, nobody does that. And yet the guy goes over there and sticks his hand in a pinch point. So just telling the guy don't do that is not going to be helpful. He knows he's not supposed to, he just lost a finger. So he knows he's not supposed to put his hand in a pinch point. So yelling at the guy or putting some kind of personal corrective action in place is not fixing the next guy who goes over there and decides to put his hand in a pinch point. We have to understand the
Yeah.
reason people make these decisions.
And now that's why I'm a fan of some of these other tests that we can apply.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I talked to Alex Paradise with TapRooT, and
Right.
he loves the phrase, is it easy to do right, hard to do wrong? I call
Right.
that a process test. Like I
Okay.
can interview a process and look at a process and go, are you easy to do right, hard to do wrong? And I'm going to
Right.
ask people,
Yeah.
what frustrates you about this process? What gives you the most grief or causes you the most trouble? And the pinch point, for example, could be, well, the piece always gets hung up in that machine. And,
Exactly.
if I don't get it out, then it's going to back up. And then this guy's yelling at me. And, so it's like, you're like, okay, I can see, and then I can move to the people test. I
Right.
could see most people in that situation probably succumbing to that pressure and that
Yeah.
frustration and just thinking I can manage that risk.
Right.
I
Right.
know I'm not supposed to. That's not the point, but I can
But for
manage that
today,
risk.
I've
Yeah.
got it figured out. Just
Yeah.
this one time, I'll do it. Just this time. Just this
Yeah.
time. Or the other one I
Which
see
leads
all the
to the
time
second
is,
time.
yeah, exactly. Or
Yeah.
I see that everybody does it that way, so it must
Right.
be okay, right? So I mean, there's a lot of reasons that people decide to do things contrary to the right way, to the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to be done, and very few of them are because we feel like just doing it wrong.
Yeah.
There's good human performance based reasons we make these risk assessments and these decisions on a minute to minute basis when we do these, and if you don't fix those the reasons that people are doing these, they're just going to do it again. And again, not because they're bad people, because they're people. It's what we do,
Yeah.
right? So,
Do you find that in your work with different companies and different industries, that there are still enough people out there that they were either exposed to or they were trained in behavior-based safety years ago? Even still now, I still find companies that subscribe to this incorrectly.
yeah,
It's tough. You can do it right, but most people miss that whole thing. They think it's easy.
right.
And then that's why it leads to this whole, we got to fix all of our people.
I think so. I think there's a piece of that in there. Especially the
Yeah.
old timer. I don't want to say old
Right.
timers, but some of the people have been around a little bit. The 20-year-olds, they probably haven't seen that a whole lot, maybe. But
Right.
those in mid range have seen those kind of behavior based safety. And behavior based safety had some great thoughts and tools initially when it first
Yeah.
came out and was applied, and it kind of morphed into a hammer where we decided you're in charge of your own safety, and if you don't do it right, it's your fault, and we're going to hammer you for it. That wasn't the intent of behavior-based safety. It had some
Right.
great thoughts to it, but yeah, I do think that morphed into a blame-based system, unfortunately. And I've seen some companies use it well, and I'm thrilled when that works well. It really fosters teamwork and camaraderie, and everybody trying to help each other out and watch each other's backs. And I love seeing it when it works well. But that's usually not the case. It's usually the other way. So
Yeah. I'm old enough that I remember when, it came about,
Mhm.
or, and it became packaged as BBS, or behavior-based
Mhm.
safety.
Right.
And I read a book by one of the early proponents of behavior-based safety in construction.
Okay.
And he wrote that behavior-based safety is predicated on, he called the ABCs of, it was the antecedents, the behavior, and the consequence.
Right.
And the thought was, if you want to change behavior or impact or influence behavior, the
Right.
decision-making process that workers go through, you
Yep.
change the antecedents, which is what was in place prior to making that decision, right? That
Yep.
influenced it, or the consequences, what's reinforcing the behaviors we don't want, or what payoff or benefit, perceived or real, are they gaining from this, and can we influence those? So it was never really focusing on the behavior, which led us to the blame culture
Right.
that we are now have. And now we see the blowback to that was HOP, was human and organizational performance, which predated behavior-based safety.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
all of this stuff came about. Hop is another one. I have nothing against Hop. I think Hop does
Yeah.
some good stuff. I'm thrilled with it. It's I don't want people to think it's new. It's kind of a new packaging, and I think they've got some good tools to kind of make sure it's a little more consistent, maybe I would say. But human performance is, well, for example, TapRooT, we've been around over 35, almost 37 years now. And that's what it's based on. It's not new stuff. It's just packaged a little differently. And I don't see a conflict between good root cause analysis and Hop. I don't think they're the same thing. I think they do slightly different things, and I think they're a good complement to each other. But that's another thing where I saw this no such thing as a root cause was coming from some of the Hop consultants I had seen saying things like that. And I'm like, look, I don't know why you have to go in that direction. It's you don't have to do that. They're not in conflict with each other. They're just two different paths that can get to the good results. So
that's like a mechanic that has a favorite tool, and they always want to use that tool. Well, you've got to be able to use the other ones too. Right. I liked Deming's 14 principles of leadership. I know, but that's a lot. That's like, or I think it were 14. Drive out fear was one of my favorite ones. I mean, a lot of them are similar to Hop, human, because lean, that whole lean movement, it has a lot of those principles. And now we've got the 5 principles of Hop. The one that, and they're all fine. And it's human nature, like we said earlier, for us to latch on to like, oh, this is a shortcut, or, oh, I'm going to take this principle because this principle I see the most, and we're gonna just
concentrate
put this on a board.
Right?
And that's where I think we fail in business today, and in safety, quite frankly, is we'll over-index on one or two of these pet principles. The one that I always scratched my head. I understand it, but it gets misapplied or misinterpreted, and that would be of the 5 principles of Hop. It would be that people make mistakes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
So what they'll do is they'll say, almost like, you have to accept that. So we have to, like, you're not going to eliminate human error. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You can.
Yes.
Some human error can be eliminated.
It can. Yeah.
And so we miss an opportunity by subscribing wholesale to, well, what are you going to do? We just have to build enough protections in here to be, and we call it resilience.
And I'm with you 100% on that. I like the thought process in general that yes, humans are going to make errors, but I don't think you can just stop there and just say, well, we'll just accept that and work around that human making errors. And that's okay. I'm thrilled with putting safeguards in place to help the human when an error occurs, to make it more resilient and not be quite as high consequence when something like that happens. But that doesn't mean you just ignore those errors. I think I agree. The whole purpose of human performance is understanding and influencing that human performance. So those errors can be, I hate saying eliminated, but minimized.
Right.
Because they're right. Humans are going to make errors. You can't get rid of them, but you can sure minimize them. You don't have to accept that they're there and just shrug your shoulders and move on. That's.
Yeah. And I think what happens is, again, it's another shortcut. I wouldn't even say shortcut, but it's like it forces us into one type of fix, one category of fix, which is, you're going to do this. So when you do, I want to make sure I catch it, or it doesn't impact you, or we minimize the impact. And we should always start with, why do you even have to do that?
Right.
We may miss design opportunities to say, like the pinch point. Why is it there?
Why is it unguarded? Why can I stick my hand in there? Right.
Yes. And why you don't need, do you need to? And
Right.
and I do think that because we are afraid because of time, money, frustration, the three big things,
Yeah. Yeah.
we are afraid of those types of engineering or elimination fixes
Yeah.
because they cost the most. So
They
we
do.
think they do, or
Yeah.
they'll
They
take the
can.
most effort to get done. And I don't have time for that. I got to get to work now, and I've got to get this report filed. And it's just easier to put a sticker here and tell people not to do it. I'll add an extra check to the area manager when they come around.
Right. And the other thing I think that goes along with that is um, I don't think people are comfortable with changing human performance. I don't think they
Hmm.
understand what that means because they're not trained in it. So they're trained on how to put a sticker up or put a sign up that says "Be careful." So that's easy to do, and I can picture what that's going to do. I see it. I can put my fingers on it. But influencing a human's behavior, if you're not an expert, can be daunting if you don't know where you're going with it. So if your system doesn't give you good direction and give you good guidance on how to get to those problems and then put corrective actions in place, you may be a little hesitant to go in that direction because it's not your area of expertise, as opposed to putting a sign up. I can do that. That's easy.
Yeah, yeah, and I can control it. I,
And I
I
can do
can
something. Yeah,
I can
yeah,
write it up that this is what I did, and
and I can check it
and
off.
and then you have people reading these reports that may not understand or know,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
think that's good work, right?
yeah. Great
Um,
job. Yeah.
you mentioned your system. Your system doesn't allow for this, so let's talk about that. I
Sure.
mean, obviously, we could talk about TapRooT to the extent that we can, but in general, do you find that's what a lot of businesses lack is any robust or system that's repeatable that they go to every time something happens?
Yes.
And it'll scale for minor types of issues all the way up to you start pulling a thread and wow, you're neck deep into this thing.
Yep.
That's what companies lack is they have some basic training and an accident report that they fill out. That's it.
Yeah. They a lot of times companies. They don't have a consistent process to follow. They don't have a step by step. All right, how do I get from, somebody injured their hand? Where do I go from there? What questions should I ask? And if you don't have a system that gives you the questions to ask, and they're not the right questions, and you're just asking your investigators, "Hey, go find out what happened," and
Yeah.
and I know what your
You'll get something.
you'll get something. I know what
Yeah.
your first questions is going to be is, "Tell me what happened," right?
Why did you do that?
Why'd you do that? And there's nothing wrong with that question, but if that's as far as you know to go, you
Yeah.
don't know where you're going to end up on that. And you should be able to
Yeah.
get a consistent answer. If I gave the same investigation to three different teams, I should get the same answer to that investigation. Uh, and you just can't get that with like a 5Y. I know if I give the same investigation to three different 5Y teams, they're going to get completely different ansers.
Yeah.
That doesn't give me a lot
One's
of
going to say,
confidence.
why didn't you wait for somebody to come and help you lift that? And then
Yep.
somebody's going to go, why did you have to bend over and lift that? Those are
Those are
two
completely
different,
different
you're going to
directions,
talk
right?
about two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to get different answers, and that doesn't give me a lot of confidence that you got either all the answers or the right answer at all.
Or the
So
right ones.
so your
Yeah.
your your system needs to be consistent enough to get answers, the same answers for the same problem. And if you're not getting that, it gives you don't get that warm fuzzy that I'm fixing anything, right? And that's
Right.
I think that's where a lot of businesses kind of just kind of give up and say, well, I guess we're not going to get the same answer, so just do a 5Y and you're good. It'll be fine.
Yeah. And so what I love about TapRooT, of course, is you have a system, you have
Mm-hmm.
that software, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But TapRooT, you also have training that somebody can send some teams to
Yeah.
get trained on stopping human error, things like that. So,
Right.
can you talk a little bit about some of the trainings that TapRooT does offer?
Yeah. So for any system that you're going to use, you shouldn't expect that you're just going to drop in and do it. So TapRoot's easy to do, but it does take a minimum amount of training to understand the reasons that we're doing things that we're doing. So we offer some what I call the normal training that you do that has all the normal essential tools that you'll use every time you do a TapRoot training, and that's a couple of days, 2-day training. We have some training for some of your experts. We call them your team leaders, your advanced team leader training for maybe the expert that'll be there to help with the really difficult things or the more complex issues. Maybe there'll be your program management who's going to run the TapRoot system at your company. So we have a 5-day training for those folks. And then we have ancillary training for things like evidence collection. So are you good at interviewing people? Do you know how to how to interview someone and get the right answers from somebody? And we have a 2-day course on interviewing and evidence collection. We have one on stopping human error, which is just a kind of a high level, what tools are available to help with some of those, I don't want to call it mistake. I call it mistake proofing-ish kind of things. How do I make sure people don't make errors and recognizing those errors? So we have a course on that. So we have several different courses on, I call them optional courses that kind of fill in the gaps. If you're an equipment guy, for example, we have a course for the equipment people specifically to help you with your root cause analysis on equipment failures. So But the basic courses is the normal 2-day course that gets you into normal TapRoot training or TapRoot use. And then that 5-day team leader training is really good.
And you also have an annual summit that you do, of course, annually, but we've got one, the 2025 coming up in September. Is that correct?
Last week in September. That's right.
Last week, yeah. In Knoxville, Tennessee. So,
it's going to be here in our home city. We don't do it here all the time. I really enjoy doing and showing the city off to people here. It's a fun little city. It's neat.
I will be joining you. We will have a discussion on serious incidents, fatalities. We'll talk about that and do sort of a panel podcast style breakout session on that topic. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you all down there in Knoxville in September. So I appreciate that.
It's a great opportunity to meet 300 or 400 several hundred other TapRoot users and improvement people, people who have process improvement and are trying to improve their companies. And it's a real, it's meant to be a real users conference. So when you walk away, you have a list of things you're going to do when you get back to the office, right? And
I love that you have actual customers, clients that will do some of your breakout sessions.
Right. That's
I sat in on one last year down in the Horseshoe Bay Resort in Texas.
Yeah.
I sat in on one about learning teams and that was a great breakout, and it was led by a customer of yours, a user of TapRoot. But the information sharing is just blew me away. So it wasn't all these corporate speakers. You do have speakers that come in, obviously, but I loved that sort of organic transfer and sharing of knowledge and experience from peers. And so I loved seeing that. I'm looking forward to heading back down there.
Well over half our sessions are given by our customers, by our users that come in and give best practice ideas on how they've implemented the problems they had, how they were successful, and so it's a great way to really transfer learning to new, especially to anybody, new users. Non-TapRoot, you don't have to be a TapRoot user. That's a great way to just see how to improve your company. So it's a great opportunity. Yeah,
that's what I love, and I'll have a link in the show notes to the summit page for folks that are interested in maybe attending. They can register and see the schedule of topics and which days they'll be on and all that good stuff. So I'll be sure to include that.
Okay.
Ken, thanks so much for hopping on. I know we've been trying to do this get together and find a good time on our schedules. I'm obviously on the road right now, but I'm glad we got a chance to talk. It's a great topic, and to put a pin in it, I agree 100%. Be careful whenever somebody just tries to polish up something that we already know to be true. Sometimes just getting back to the basics and sticking with a system that is sustainable, that you can repeat, right, for every incident, that guides you through this process. And I loved what you said about interviews. I highly recommend. I love the cognitive interview
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yep.
That anybody out there, if you think you've got a great form and template that you use to fill out, and you ask the right questions to collect the right evidence,
Yep.
but you're not sure if your folks are really good at talking to people, and I highly recommend that you sign up for some sort of, like, in
Learning
TapRoot's
platform.
case, the interview
Mhm.
training, because that's
Mhm.
highly valuable.
It's a
Highly
skill.
valuable.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. Hey, thanks again, Ken, and we'll talk soon, and I will definitely see you all down at the Global Summit in September.
Excellent. Thanks, Blaine. Appreciate your time.